Up next, we have a presentation about new pulse varieties available to growers, and that will be provided by Laurie Friesen, Seed Program Manager with Saskatchewan Pulse Growers. As Seed Program Manager, she handles variety commercialization as well as coordinating the Saskatchewan, soybean, and pulse crop regional variety trials. Welcome, Laurie.
All righty. There we go. Well, thanks for having me here today. This is my first time speaking in front of an actual live crowd, so it's kind of a new experience. I think I'm out of practice, but I'm really pleased to be here. So today, as you heard, I'm going to be talking about new varieties. I'm going to focus on new varieties that are available for production this spring. So we're going to start out with lentils. So what you see here, this is a chart showing the trends in large green lentils. Is there a pointer on here? Yes. So you can see that the acres by variety, Green Star still is the dominant variety, and but it's starting to decline a little bit. It was growing year over year until about 2020. And the reason why it's declining a little bit is you're starting to see an increase in interest in the new large green lentil, which is CDC Lima. And it offers the clear field trait, which is not present in Green Star. Green Star still occupies a lot of acres though, because it does have very high yield and is a very good variety. Some of the older varieties you can see are declining. The green line shows CDC Empower, and also CDC Improve is the red line, and those are lower yielding varieties that are starting to decline, although they still occupy quite a few acres. Oops. Okay, so this shows a yield comparison of large green lentils. So the top ranking lentils are the CDC Green Star, as I mentioned. In 10 years of RVT data, it was the first overall and also ranked first in 8 out of 10 sites, and that's compiling data collected over 10 years. So it is a very strong variety. Also high yielding are the new varieties CDC Grim, which is a few years away yet from production, and CDC Lima, which is the new one I just mentioned. Ranking at the bottom are the old varieties CDC Empower, which still occupies 12% of acres, and CDC Improve, which also still has 5% of acres. And Greenland is also quite a bit lower yielding, and it's around 30% of acres. So this is another way of looking at the yield ranking of these varieties. So again, CDC Green Star at the top and some of the lower yielding ones at the bottom. This chart shows the ranking by location over the 10 years of data that was collected. So you can see how CDC Green Star, which is the one there, it ranked first in most of the locations in compiled data from 10 years. So you can see how strong a variety it is. Now CDC Lima and CDC Grim are very new. We don't have as many years of data, but I think as we collect more years of data, they will likely rival CDC Green Star in some of those top positions as well. The other benefit, of course, is that it has a herbicide tolerance and it does have a larger seed. So here we can see how it yields relative to the older varieties. So in the brown and dark brown soil zone, it was 11% higher than CDC Empower, slightly lower than Green Star, was 6% lower in the brown and dark brown, and 4% higher than Greenland. In the black and dark gray soil zone, though, it really looks good, where it was 20% higher than CDC Empower, 6% higher than CDC Green Star, and 18% higher than Greenland. And it performed particularly well in roster. And again, that strength showing in the black soil zone. In most locations, it did rank near the top. So this is one to maybe try. So now looking at small red lentils, CDC Maximum is still dominating acres, and it has for years. However, it's the blue line at the top, and you can see that it is starting to decrease year over year. Part of this is because of high yielding varieties such as CDC Proclaim. That one is the purple line at the bottom, and the bright green one, CDC Impulse, are starting to claim acres, and they are higher yielding and also have the clear field trait. Coming down are older varieties such as CDC Dazzle and some other older ones, but also you can see that there's a slight increase. This light blue line at the bottom is CDC REDMOON. It's had a very slow uptake because it does not have the clear field trait. However, it's an extremely high yielding variety, and there's been a little bit of renewed interest, and I think partly that's due to there's other options for weed control, and some of the IMI chemicals don't necessarily take out the weeds you need to have removed anyway. So it is one to consider. So just showing a yield comparison, there's a lot of bars on this graph, but it shows that there's about 7 that rank near the top. And this includes the non-clear field ones like REDMOON, Carmine, and Coral. The Carmine and Coral just didn't get much uptake, but they do yield very high. I'm not even sure there's much seed out there of those two. And then the newer ones, CDC Impulse and Proclaim, and also much newer NIMBLE and SIMI. And these ones, there's probably not a lot of statistical difference between those top ranking ones, but there is significant differences between those and the bottom ranking ones, such as Maxim, IMAX, and Dazzle. So we'll talk a little bit more about CDC REDMOON. So although that's, oops, no. So it shows right at the top. So right at the top of 10 years of data, it ranked the highest. It's interesting to note again that the 3 at the top are all non-clearfield varieties versus the lineup of clearfield varieties at the bottom. And that's fairly typical. For some reason, there seems to be a bit of a yield penalty when they move that trait over. So anyway, REDMOON ranked at the top spot overall, and that's from 61 site years of data. And it was top in 4 out of 9 locations. It yields about 114% of Maxim in the brown and dark brown soil zones, and about 104% of Maxim in the black and dark gray. So one of the really new ones out there is CDC SIMI. Again, a clearfield small red variety, and it was released in 2019, so it's just coming into certified seed availability. It's a high yielding in the brown and dark brown soil zones where it's 109% of Maxim, and in the black and dark gray, it's 103%. So this one is a good one to consider. CDC NIMBLE was released in the same year in 2019, and it's another good one. It yields quite a bit, or yields high in the brown and dark brown soil zones at 108%, but it also yields high in the black and dark gray at 107% of Maxim. So it has a broader geographical range in terms of its ability to produce, which is good for yield stability if it's able to yield high over multiple environments. Now, as far as certified seed that's available, this is based on the number of seed growers that are advertising certified seed this spring. So for CDC Lima, there was some certified seed available in 21, but by far there's more in this year. So there's about 15 growers advertising certified seed this spring. As I mentioned, CDC SIMI and CDC NIMBLE are much newer, And there's only 4 growers advertising seed of Simi and only 1 for NIMBLE. But there should be quite a few more in 2023 because there's a lot that have registered seed. So we'll move into peas. So this is showing now the trend in varieties in yellow peas. And so as you know, that CDC Meadow has been the dominant variety for many years, but like Maxim, it's declining year over year. And that's partly because of uptake of higher yielding varieties. You can see here, CDC Inca is the bright green line, and the darker green line is CDC Spectrum. So those are starting to gain acres in favor or taking over from Maxim. CDC Amarillo, where is it? Oh. The middle line there, it was increasing quite steadily up until about 2018 and is now in decline. I think a lot of that is because some growers are finding it had seed breakage issues. So it's come down quite a bit in popularity. So this again is showing yield ranking. This is a compilation of up to 10 years of RVT data or regional variety trial data. And AAC Chrome ranked right at the top, followed by varieties such as Inca, Amarillo, Luachco, Spectrum, etc. And there's not really much statistical difference between those top ranking varieties, but there is quite a difference between that grouping and some of the lower ones such as Meadow, Golden, and Cutlass, some of the very old ones. But certainly they all outrank CDC Meadow. So I'm just going to touch on a few of the top varieties. So AAC Chrome is a variety that was put out by, or developed by Agriculture Canada, and it's marketed by FP Genetics. So this one has high yield in both the north and south geographies, and it has very good seed characteristics. I'm just gonna. Yeah. So in 7 years of testing in the regional variety trials, it yielded 106% compared to the Czech Amarillo in the south and 104% in the north. And it ranked at the top. That was from 44 site years of data, so quite consistent. It ranked at the top in areas such as Indian Head, Kamsack, Saskatoon, and Swift Current, which shows an adaptation to a broad range of geographies. Its only downfall is it does have a lower protein, about 1% lower than the Czech Amarillo. So it just sort of depends on whether there's an opportunity from processors looking for a higher protein pea, whether or not you select this one. CDC Luachco was developed by the Crop Development Center. It also has high yield in both the north and south geographies, yielding 102 and 103% respectively of the Czech Amarillo. So this variety has shown promising performance over the 5 years that it's been tested and has ranked in the top 4 varieties in pretty much every location. Now this one has the advantage of having the highest protein of the yellow pea varieties at 0.9% over the Czech, which is very significant. So that will ensure it's sought after by pea processing companies. So there's opportunities there. It also has very good lodging resistance and very good seed characteristics, things like seed coat breakage, resistance to dimpling, less green coloration, better than Inca or Spectrum, and a nice round shape. Another one that's worth mentioning is AAC Profit. So this one was a new variety that was first available to growers this year, and there is a fair bit of seed out there now. This one had very high yield in the north, 110% of the Czech, and is still good in the south at 103%. It also has high protein at plus 0.8% over the Czech, rated good for seed coat breakage, and has a medium seed size. Now, I was supposed to just talk about varieties that are available to growers this year, However, just a sneak peek, there's 4 varieties that are up and coming that'll be available in the next couple of 3 years. 2 out of Crop Development Center and 2 put out by Agriculture Canada. And these all have very high yield, and most of these also have high protein. So there's going to be a lot of good varieties to select from going forward as well. So in terms of certified seed, for AAC Chrome, there's 12 growers advertising certified seed. And for CDC Lowachko, there's now 18 growers that have seed and 14 for AAC Profit. So fairly good seed supply. Depending on what their production was like last year. Of course, we had the drought, so it's hard to say how much seed they have and what the quality of the seed is, but at least there's quite a bit being developed. Okay, I'm going to move on to faba beans. This just shows a lot of numbers on this table. It's just the performance data, but basically there are 2 varieties that are being grown for the most part in Saskatchewan. So in the white flowered low tannin types, most acres are seeded to Snowbird. It's the Czech variety, and that's 77% of faba bean acres total. And a small portion are grown of the colored flower tannin types, and there's about 5% of Saskatchewan acres of those. So as I mentioned, Snowbird is the most common variety. It does have good yield, and it's earlier maturing than most varieties, and there's good availability of seed. There's another variety that's just becoming available with certified seed, and that's one CDC 219-16, and it missed getting a real name, so it has to go by that name. It yields 2% higher than Snowbird, matures 2 days later, so there's a bit of a down there. It has a small seed size, 328 for 1,000 seed weight versus 448 for Snowbird, so a little more economical for seeding. And there's very limited seed right now. There's only one advertising certified seed, but there'll be a lot more next year because there was a lot of production by seed growers of this one. In the colored flowered type or the tannin, there's a new variety that's available now called Fabel. So this has very good yield. It's 13% higher than the old standby FB9s and has best standability of this type. Maturity is similar to Snowbird. And it also has a smaller seed size at 533 grams per 1,000 seeds versus 680 of FB9. So it's a little easier to seed and again, more economical. This variety also has the advantage of being low vicine and convicine. So you've probably heard about this before. We've mentioned it at quite a few of these talks, but I'll just go over it again. These are anti-nutritional compounds that occur in faba beans. For most people, that's not a problem, but there's a small percentage of the population that it is quite serious, and a rapid onset anemia can start, and it is a very serious condition. Mostly faba beans going into the human food market are sold whole, and the people that consume them, particularly in the Middle East, they know if they have an issue and they don't eat them. However, there's a big opportunity now in North America and in Canada is for protein fractionation of faba beans. There's processors right now that are working on this. Faba beans have higher protein than peas. They don't have flavor issues. So this is a really big opportunity. However, processors would be reluctant to extract protein or create flours to put into food products if they know that there could be an issue with vicine and convicine hidden in a food product. So the whole industry is switching over to these low vicine, convicine varieties, and you're going to see this shift over the next number of years. At some point, this shift will be complete, and the reason for that is that there is cross-pollination in faba beans. So you need a great deal of isolation if you're growing a low vicine, convicine type. Otherwise, you won't meet what the low level that's required. And we're looking at least 5 kilometers. So you need to be cognizant of what your neighbors are doing, or if they're growing low vicine, convicine, and just have a really good feel of what everyone's doing in your district. I was going to mention just briefly, I didn't include chickpeas in this because there isn't a new variety coming out right now. But after I heard some of the questions earlier, I just thought I'd mention that there are 2 varieties that are in seed development. One of those was CDC Lancer. So right now it's at registered seed. So there isn't any certified being advertised this year. There should be seed available next year. And it is a very strong variety. There's an even higher yielding one that's a few years yet behind. It's only select and foundation seed right now, and that is CDC Orkney. And it's also quite a bit higher yielding than Leader and Orion and some of those varieties. So just keep an eye out for those. They are coming along. As far as getting more information on varieties, you can look on our website. We have variety tech sheets available, as well yield performance data. As for sourcing seed, there's a number of places to go. One of the main ones is the CSJ online seed directory, seed locator. You've probably all seen that. In the SAS Seed Guide, there's advertising seed availability. And now the Saskatchewan Seed Growers Association have put out a new interactive seed guide where you can source seed and look at the trial results and that sort of thing. So it's quite a useful website. And that was just launched recently. Whoops, missed one. So new for this year, we are going to be doing a variety showcase. And this will be large scale demos, like large strip trials of new varieties versus some of the old standbys. We're doing it in peas and lentils for this year. This is going to be run by select seed growers. And it's good to have them involved because they are the first to grow new varieties on a field scale. So they have some very pertinent information on how these varieties perform. So we're going to have these in 3 different locations. One is east or southeast at Welwyn. We have one planned for around Avonlea and another one at Birch Hills. So we're going to run tours at these locations, or at least one of them, and hopefully more. So stay tuned. It'll be an opportunity to see some of these varieties on a large scale. And that concludes my talk. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. All right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Laurie.